Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2023, and today I want to talk to you all about why there are so many men out there who are lonely. With men, there is a loneliness epidemic. I think one of the reasons why men are so lonely is because it's very difficult for men to find and keep other friends. And why is it very difficult for men to find and keep other friends? Because I think there's a paradox of vulnerability that exists within men. On one hand, we're encouraged to be vulnerable, to be open about our feelings, and yet when we are open, we are oftentimes shamed or criticized and looked down upon. If we cry one tear too many, then our sexuality is called into question. We are judged. We are made to feel like we're less of men because we have emotions and feelings. And I think oftentimes we are socialized as young men and boys to kind of hide, to mask and shame ourselves and other boys who exhibit traits that are deemed feminine, like communication. Even communication and talking is seen as a feminine trait. Men are encouraged to be the strong, silent types. We're encouraged to bottle up our emotions and hide from the world, you know? And this message is ingrained in our heads from birth until we are adult men. Oftentimes, we'll be shamed when we cry. Toughen up, man up. We're always told as though being a man means that you are just devoid and absent of emotion. And so many men have subscribed to this, and so they've shut down. And to be honest, true friendship, true when it is true, it requires vulnerability, it requires openness, it requires a level of honesty that most men struggle with. And it's unfortunate because the thing about it is this: we as men are dying, and I direct this post, this video to men, because we as men are dying early because we're stuffing our emotions, we're engaging in unhealthy behaviors, we're using drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, food as coping strategies and as outlets. And these are oftentimes used to excess, these are used in unhealthy ways, and it's killing us. It's causing and creating so many health issues. Many men, they don't take themselves to the doctor, they don't get preventative care. We don't go to the doctor unless we're forced to go in. And they say that men, when they're married, they have a longer life expectancy than single men. And that's because oftentimes, at the encouragement of our wives, or their wives, should I say, they go to the doctor, you know? And many men are in the midst of a loneliness epidemic. And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we have been socialized to disconnect from ourselves. It's unfortunate that we have been groomed for coffins, stuffing our emotions, stuffing our feelings, all to try and pretend and uphold this image of invincibility and strength. When we don't always feel that way. Sometimes we just feel like crying. We feel like getting angry. We feel like, and to be honest, thing is, I just want to say about anger, anger seems to be the only acceptable emotion that men can express without it calling into question their masculinity, without it creating some kind of, just issue, you know? And as I mentioned earlier, it's unfortunate because so many men out here need quality association. They need connection. We all As human beings, we thrive on connection. We are not an island unto ourselves. We thrive on connection. We thrive on interdependence. Not so much dependence, not so much independence, but interdependence, which is healthy, you know, relying on each other to support one another. But I think oftentimes men don't have this option, you know, and I think having healthy male association is important. But oftentimes, I got to be honest, I myself have experienced this. Men are very competitive and they always try to one up each other. They don't really want to cooperate. Everything with them is just who has the bigger penis, who can exude the most masculine power. And it's this constant headbutting and this adversarial relationship that's creating this intense loneliness among men. And I've seen this firsthand, in my relationships with men and dealing with them. They always want to try to compete. They always want to challenge you. They always want to try to stare you down. Who's going to look away first? All these contests that you don't even know the rules to. You don't even know the rules to. And yet still you're thrust into these competitions. And it's unfortunate. We as men don't really have the tools necessary to really connect with one another in a meaningful way. And I think that needs to change. I personally have started making the change myself. I try my best to be a real person, share my real emotions, and oftentimes, truth be told, that makes other men uncomfortable. They don't really talk about their feelings. They don't really talk about certain things. And so you're instantly accused of being gay. You're instantly accused of, which is, gay is not an accusation. That's unfortunate that it is in this day and age, but people think that you are less of a man if you are gay, which is not true. But there's so many misconceptions, so many misconceptions. And I think, quite frankly, men are the ones that they have to get over. We are the ones that we have to get over. We as men are sometimes our own worst enemy. Gotta be real. We are our own worst enemy because we're sitting here trying to uphold these false beliefs and these false definitions about masculinity and what that means. And we are dying under these false notions of masculinity. We're literally dying, trying to uphold something that's a lie. So in trying to maintain this lie, we're sitting up here digging early graves, and it's just not working anymore. And many men are coming out of that mindset. They're coming out of that mindset. They're starting to see that it's not working anymore, So many men are manning up. They're starting to, be more courageous in terms of sharing their emotions, because it takes a real man to ask for help. It takes a courageous man to share his emotions. It takes a warrior and a soldier to cry and to let that pain out in a world that wants you to hold it in a world that deems you more masculine, the more you suffer and silence and die inside, So it's wild. The more you die inside, the more you are rewarded as the man. You're the man, because you suffer under the weight of your silence. But your silence is not going to save you. If anything, silence equals death. Your death. As men, it equals your death. It equals our death. And so my thing is this. As a man who is on a different journey, I commit myself to vulnerability. Vulnerability is my superpower. That's why I do these videos. That's why I make this content, because I want to share with other men. It's safe to be vulnerable. You can be vulnerable. You can share yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. You also have to discern in what spaces it's safe to share yourself. Because in a lot of spaces, people still operate from those archaic views, from those old mindsets that continue to lock us in these prisons. We're locked in these external prisons. And the key is to, one, working on yourself, trying to unpack those old negative messages you received about masculinity and replacing them with new messages, new tapes that go on inside your mind. And then committing yourself to be around people who continue to do their work. I realize now the importance of dealing with people who do their work. If you're not dealing with somebody who is actively doing their work, then you're going to always find yourself as the problem, when really you're not the problem. What the problem is that they're projecting their own unhealed material onto your life. Their own unhealed wounds are somehow always triggered, and so they project them onto your growth, you know? So oftentimes it'll make you feel as though you're wrong or you're somehow the problem. But nah, that's why it's important to deal with people who are doing their work, people who have demonstrated that they are safe spaces, men who are doing their work. That's why a man in therapy is a very powerful man because he's taking accountability, hopefully. Hopefully, if he is in therapy, he's taking accountability. He's trying to do something about his programming. We all have conditioning that we have to unpack and that we have to unspool and that we have to figure out. We all have that. And so my thing is this. If he is actively working in therapy and you're seeing that transformation, you definitely discern whether it's a safe space, and connect. Take the initiative, and share something vulnerable about yourself, Because the thing about it is, our so-called masculine mask is starting to crumble. It's starting to crumble, and we are starting to realize that it's not working for us anymore, So many men are out here wanting to connect, and yet struggling to connect in a real way. And I'm not talking about through destructive means, bonding over drugs or bonding over sex or bonding over just degradation of women, They want to connect in healthy ways, but they just don't know how. They don't know how in a way that will honor their masculinity. Some don't know how in a way that will honor their image and their false front that they're putting on. And that's step one, dropping that front. You got to let go of that false image. You got to let go of that front. That's where the personal work comes in. That's where the reflection, self-reflection. That's where you have to sit with yourself and unpack those messages. Because a lot of men are out here trying to be loved for the facade. They're out here trying to be loved and seen for the fake version of themselves, for the representative. And you're not going to be loved that way. True intimacy requires you to be your most real, vulnerable self, unvarnished, unrehearsed, just stripped down to your bare self. If you want that intimacy, if you want to experience that loving tenderness that has nothing to do with sex, nothing to do with penetration or degradation, just has everything to do with that pure tenderness, almost fatherly tenderness, then you have to get real. We have got to start getting real with ourselves. You got to get real with yourself. That's step one. Because you're going to continue to perpetuate this lie. Over and over, this lie. It's not working. It's keeping you in a cage. And so if you want to find genuine friendship, genuine connection as men, we first got to do that personal work. And then we have to take some healthy risks. We have to go out here and try to find other people who are doing that work too and trying to connect with them. Typically a male support group. You can find some decent men who are also doing the work, but once again, you have to also discern. Because while some people are in group to try and do the work, there are other people that are still operating from a performative mindset, from that representative. They're still introducing everybody to their representative. You got to drop that. Drop it. And so my thing is this. We as men have got to revamp masculinity. We have got to reclaim it. We have got to start to change how we see masculinity and what we define it as. Because there's so many broken men that I've noticed, so many lost men. And they're not bad men, they're just wounded men. Wounded. And they're trying their best to figure it out, but they've never had any role models. They never had any healthy examples of what true, honest, pure masculinity is. They've had men beat on them, abuse them. They've had men act like men, try to act with this performative masculinity, but it's not real. It does not hold up under the weight of interrogation. It doesn't. It crashes instantly, because as you continue to see these men, see them, you realize that they're not what is advertised. They're not as advertised. They're just a construct of masculinity. You know? A construct, an archetype of what they think men should be. Based on what? Based on, once again, those false messages, those false definitions that they probably inherited from their fathers. And their fathers inherited from their fathers. So it's just this generational cycle of lies and false definitions that we're still operating under. So we have got to unpack all the lies that we've been told about what being a real good man is all about. We got to start unpacking that. So I hope everybody out there, every man out there, you're doing your work. You're definitely trying your best. I see you. I notice you. All the good men out there, I definitely notice you. I see you. And my thing is this. To all the men out there who are lonely men, it's okay. It's okay to feel those feelings of aloneness and loneliness, you know? But once again, in order to begin to connect with others, you have to first connect with yourself. You have to first connect and unpack with those messages. Once again, you have to, and that's hard work. That is such emotionally draining work. And while you're doing this work, you definitely have to love on yourself and try to reach out to other people, therapists, counselors. Reach out to them. Reach out for that support, because you're going to need it on this journey. And definitely use those rooms as a safe space to begin to unpack and to begin to learn new skills on how to interact with other men, you know, in a real way. So I hope that this video was helpful. Definitely share, comment. Let me know what your experience is with finding friends as a man. What techniques, what tools do you use in order to connect with other men? Definitely let me know. All right? Peace, y'all.